Welcome back to the Crooked Spine Show. Today's talk with Ted Moreno, my first hypnotherapist guest. He has his own show called Ted in Your Head. Podcasts, videos, things like that. He's very socially media famous, I call it. I just did. What he deals with too is he helps people with problems with anxiety, depression, helping with sleep, things like that. And understanding a lot of it is once he does therapies with people, your self-care. How do you treat yourself? How does things around you in your life affect how your body can heal from that? Also recovering from stressful events sometimes be an issue, along with phobias that also too. Realize he talks about too at about 14 minutes how hypnotherapy actually works. We talked about an example of somebody who wants weight loss. I think his name is Karma, and I made up as my head because I'm 10 in your head too sometimes. Also too, we talked about addictions, how people basically recover from addictions, and also too, the first step is awareness. We talked about hypnotherapy, being aware and open to recovery. All right, so go right to the talk if you want to. If not, go to the highlights in our show notes, and I'll see you after the show.
Very good. Cool.
Ted, Dr. Tony.
Nice to meet you, Dr. Tony.
Crooked Spine Show.
Yeah.
I want to know about hypnotherapy.
I'll tell you about hypnotherapy.
I've heard a lot of like, what the heck is going on? I watched a long video, the science behind it, which really correlates the science with chiropractic, with the human body. How the mind, how the body works together consciously and unconsciously. So to get started, why do you want to become a hypnotherapist? What was your purpose of this?
Well, I was looking for something to do that was meaningful, something that was not involved in any high-pressure sales. You know, I was definitely interested in human potential and the power of the mind, and I met a hypnotherapist.
Okay, so you met one. Okay.
I met a hypnotherapist, and she had something that I wanted. You know, she had some ability to speak and have some sense of personal power.
Good.
And I said, where do you practice hypnotherapy? She said, HMI, Hypnosis Motivation Institute in Tarzana.
That's the video I saw. Yep.
Yeah. So I went down there and signed up that night. Told my wife the next day. I said, guess what I'm doing?
Let me adjust the video real quick.
Sure.
Just the camera.
Okay.
And that's all it is can you find something you love, and at that point do it for a long time, make a living at it in the sense where support your family and not stress yourself out every day in our dog-eat-dog world.
Absolutely.
And enjoy having a family and spending time with them and having that happiness go to your patients too. Absolutely,
and that is really important.
Huge.
I didn't want to live a life of high stress, working all the time, spending time with, at the time I didn't have kids, but I wanted to spend time with my kids. All of that was important to me.
Well, I think a lot of it is when we go see doctors, right? Because we're doctors too.
Right.
And we go see doctors, and patients see doctors come back to us. If a doctor is frustrated, is unhappy himself, that exudes to the patient.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's the person, not the profession, that gets a bad rap.
I would agree with you. So I'm happy to say that when I go in and sit in front of my clients, I'm totally present to them and able to get them. I need to be able to get where they're coming from, get what their world looks like, and so they get that sense that I understand and I'm there for them.
Well, and if you go from a happy state or a relaxed state, and if they're at a stress state, you can bring them up to your level slowly. But if you're starting out as a doctor, as a therapist, and you're starting at a stress state, it's hard to change their state.
It certainly is. Yeah. I think so. So there's that vibration, that resonance that needs to happen there.
Perfect. And let's talk about your show too, Ted in Your Head.
Right.
What's Ted in Your Head? He has his own show. He's pretty famous. I'm trying to get there. But talk about your show. What have you done so far in your show?
Okay, so my Ted in the Head podcast is interview style, like what we do here.
Yes.
Okay, but mostly it's just me talking about some of the stuff that I've learned, some of the stuff that I see as truth, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So we talk about all the everyday challenges that people have, anxiety, how do we handle overwhelm, right? Mm-hmm. How do we deal with achieving what we want to achieve and the blocks that stand in the way of us, right? So I did my most recent podcast was about, it was about this time I tried being in the rodeo.
Yes.
Right? So I don't know if you saw it, but...
I heard about it on your intro on your YouTube video.
Yeah, there's a photo of me on the horse. If you go to Instagram, I'm all over the place. And, I tried... And at one point I was, I was on this bucking bronco horse, and my hand got stuck in the rigging. There's like a handle that you put your hand in, right?
Yes.
And I wanted to hang on, and I just wanted to hang on. Finally, I just said, "This is ridiculous."
Out of here.
Pulled my hand out, boom, 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 And so the title of that podcast was, sometimes you just need to let go. We want to hang on to this belief or this thing or this activity or this relationship, and sometimes we just need to bail out and say, you know what, this is not working for me.
Well, is that thing affecting other things in your life and people around you?
Yeah, well, in a couple of different ways. If it's causing you stress and tension, like we just talked about, that's going to bleed into other areas of life. But not only that, but once you get that thing out of your life, you create space to bring something new in.
And with hypnotherapy, what is the science that works for people to understand from a layman's term to help hypnotherapists become more relatable with not normal medicine, but just health in general?
Okay. Well, the first thing to remember is that hypnosis is a natural state that we are in every single day of our lives. First half hour after waking up, we are in a hypnotic state, right before we go to bed, and various times during the day.
Okay.
So if you've ever had the experience of driving down the freeway and you miss your off-ramp because you're spacing out, that's because you're in a trance state.
There you go.
So it's a natural state, and all we do as hypnotherapists is we create that state under controlled conditions so that the mind becomes open and what we call suggestible.
Okay.
So we can give you suggestions, ideas based on what you want. Since the mind is more open to these, we create familiarity in the mind with the compelling goal or compelling outcome.
And is that the conscious or unconscious mind?
We're working with the subconscious mind. Some people call it the unconscious.
So that's the same thing, okay.
Yes. You got like 10, 12% conscious mind, thinking, logic, reasoning, planning. Underneath that, you have 88, 90% subconscious mind. And that contains all of our associations, all of our programming, all of our learning. And sometimes that learning and programming is no longer serving us.
And when does that programming actually start? Is it when we're infants, when we're children?
It starts from the time we're born until about 8 years old. Okay, so even a child in the womb can pick up the stress or tension of a mother. Okay, so that's the programming that starts, and then about 8 years old we start thinking for ourselves and making our own decisions.
Critical thinking, correct?
Exactly, and it's called the critical mind. Critical mind starts to form at about 8 years old. But before that, our minds are wide open, so we just take in everything as absolute truth.
So that 0 or even minus 9 months old up to 8, 9 years old, that's the window where kids really create their subconscious mind. Is that correct?
Their subconscious mind is created. Their subconscious programming is created by what they hear, what they see, what they feel, and what people tell them.
Wow.
That programming.
And that as we get older, from 8 on, does that become more concrete, or is that something that still can be moldable over time?
It's definitely something that could be moldable over time.
Okay.
However, we have to be aware and conscious that this particular belief is no longer working for me. Or I'm drawn to these kind of relationships, and why is that happening? You know.
So there's something underneath that we're not doing from an active or awake mind that's making us gravitate toward things that need not be well for our health or people around us.
Absolutely. And part of the process of hypnotherapy is becoming conscious of that quote-unquote programming that's keeping us back from health, happiness, and success.
And one of the interviews I was listening to, it talks about the fight or flight reflexes being part of the I'll call it hypnotherapy, but part of the human body's condition to cause things to become conscious or unconscious. What was that about?
So the fight or flight response is our ancient survival mechanism.
Yes.
We're born with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fight, of course, used to be if you're trying to steal my food, I'll pick up a stick. Or if you're... Or a club, or if you're a superior, if you're bigger, stronger, I'll run away, fight or flight. Today, those two responses have become, they've changed a little bit. Today, fight is anxiety, flight is depression.
Say that one more time so people can hear that.
Okay, so today, fight has become extended to become anxiety, and flight becomes depression. So that's the modern day equivalent of fight or flight. Now we may still feel that when faced with a dangerous situation, obviously, but how many times do we come face to face with a quote unquote saber-toothed tiger or somebody trying to hit us with a club? It's like traffic, right? It's like overwhelm. It's like people upsetting us that fight or flight gets triggered, right? And when that happens, we go into a trance state.
And when someone goes into fight or flight, what's the body's response? What are they going to feel? What's going to be the reaction of the physical body?
Well, there's a couple of things. If they go into fight or flight, they're going to feel like sweaty palms, rapid heartbeat, shallow breathing. They might perspire. They might feel a sense of being out of their body, kind of a disconnected feeling from their body, foggy brain. All of these things could be going on when that fight or flight response.
And that can be both responses, fight or flight or anxiety or depression.
Right. Well, it's both sides of the same coin. So a lot of people that experience severe anxiety end up experiencing depression as well. And here's an interesting thing. You know how depressed people want to sleep a lot. And the reason they want to sleep a lot is because at night, the mind is trying to vent out those message units through the dreams, right? So that's why depressed people want to sleep.
Okay, so is there a way to say it to where their unconscious mind is able to help them cope with their conscious reality?
That's right.
Their perception reality, sorry.
That's right, which is why sleep is so incredibly important. And yet so many people skimp on sleep and don't have good sleep, what we call sleep hygiene.
And can it reverse to where a lack of sleep or sleep deprivation cause depression?
Yes, absolutely. I don't want to get too technical, but your mind's like a cup.
Okay.
It has a certain capacity. You can only put so much stuff in it before it starts overflowing.
Yes.
When the mind overflows because so much stuff is going in there in any single day, we go into overwhelm. Okay? So when we go into overwhelm, that fight or flight gets triggered. Now we're in that kind of walking hypnosis state. Many things can create the capacity of our cup. If we're not getting enough sleep, if we're not eating right, extra stress, we're not feeling good, then the capacity is going to be smaller.
So that cup gets smaller.
That's right. The capacity gets smaller and we're not able to deal with the everyday challenges of life.
And how do we make that capacity bigger? Bigger cup.
Start with basic self-care. Right?
I'm leading you down this rabbit hole that I want to get into. That's exactly it.
Get enough sleep.
Yes.
Sleep regular times during the day. Regular times at night and going to sleep and waking up times. Eat 3 meals a day, meals with protein, right? So your blood sugar is not all over the place.
It's simple health things we should be doing, correct?
Right.
I think sometimes people think, I can hack that. I can go over that. I can take a shortcut and still get the same result.
For a while you might be able to, but it's not sustainable, A lot of people wake up. Jim Rohn, my favorite kind of business philosopher, said either you run the day or the day runs you.
Exactly.
So what I tell people is like the night before, plan the next day so that when you wake up, you already have a plan. If you wake up and you're just like, what do I do today? The day's running you at that point.
And when the day runs you, are you more anxious and sometimes depressed?
Absolutely.
Huge.
Absolutely.
It's simple life things we're doing that can help or hurt us to get into an anxious, depressed state or relaxed and strong state.
That's right. A resourceful state is what we can call it, that relaxed, strong state. So where all of our resources are available to us, and we have to put some work into that. We have to practice self-care. We have to practice mental self-care. And we can go down the spiral of negative thinking, right? Which is why affirmations or positive input in the form of audiobooks or books are very, very important.
Podcasts like Head in Your Head. Just going back to
or
that,
like
sorry.
the Crooked Spine, right?
The Crooked Spine show, exactly.
Exactly.
Well, and that's the thing is but does that negative self-talk come from a depressed, anxious state, or does it feed each other?
Feeds each other. It's a vicious cycle, right?
Okay.
I mean, everything that happens out there, we attach some meaning to, right?
Yes.
And of course, if we get in a car accident, we're not going to be like, unless we're like a Zen monk, you might say, oh, the universe has visited this upon me for some form of learning. Most people are like, doggone it, I got in an accident, right?
Hurts. Yeah. It hurts, gives me headaches.
Yeah, but you could walk away from that going, well, thank God I have insurance and thank God everybody's okay. Or you can be like, this traffic in Los Angeles, I don't even know why I live here. And there you go.
It's your reaction to the environment sometimes. But I think when you're healthier, you can tolerate that stress more to maintain a positive, grateful mindset to realize, hey, I have enough. I've done enough. How can I help someone else?
You're absolutely right. And negative thinking can become a habit, just like positive thinking.
Huge. And you can't do both, correct?
Well, we're going to be drawn towards negative thinking.
Humans.
It's our human nature. It's easier to think negatively,
Yeah.
But that's why our kind of self-care practices, mental, physical, and emotional, are so important to keep us at that high-functioning state.
Is that high-functioning state, listening to another video about hypnotherapy too, is that part of homeostasis?
I'm glad you brought that up. That's a
trying.
very good word. Okay, homeostasis is like your thermostat that you set for 68 degrees, right? If it gets too hot,
Comfort level.
That's right. So your homeostasis is your comfort level. And if your comfort level is with like negativity and anger and bitterness and resentment, then you got to move that up to a different level, and that takes work. This is why people that win the lottery within 5 years are back to where they were before. This is why people that lose a lot of weight gain it all back, right? Because they haven't changed the thinking, the mindset that created that problem in the first place. So what we do with hypnotherapy is we try to create a higher level of homeostasis, right?
How does hypnotherapy do that? As one thing to talk about. Got it.
It's through the power of suggestion,
Okay.
through the power of visualization, and there's other techniques that we use as well. But remember that the key is that the subconscious mind will always move towards what is known and familiar. That's the homeostasis.
Got it.
So
Comfort
what we attempt to do is we attempt to create a new comfort level or a new homeostasis in the subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind starts moving in that direction. We have 12% conscious mind, I want this. Many times 88% subconscious is like, no, I want this.
This feels good.
Right.
Right now.
So we try to get both of those parts of the mind moving in the same direction.
And walk me through how you would see a client, say, named Carmine. How would you walk them through that?
Okay.
Say for weight loss.
All right. So I would say, Carmine, how much weight do you want to lose? He might say 50 pounds. I would say, okay, we're going to start with 8 sessions.
Got it.
All right.
Okay.
So I'm going to have him commit to 8 sessions.
Why 8 sessions, or why more than one session?
Because they're not going to lose any weight after one session.
So are they going to change their mindset, their unconscious mind? They're going to change their, again, we just talked about, their homeostatic state takes time to change. Even neurologically, chemically, hormonally, it can take up to 3 months to cause a change.
Absolutely. And there's no point in just having one session, right? I mean, anything that we want to get good at takes time and reinforcement and repetition. So I'll say, okay, willing to commit to 8 sessions? Great. And then I'll find out what they're eating. I'll find out what level of exercise they're doing. And sometimes I may have to find out, like, why they're holding on to the weight. Here's where it gets a little complex, okay? Because people hang on to weight for many, many different reasons. For some people, that weight is protective padding against the knocks of the world.
Got it.
Okay. For other people, food represents comfort and family, right? You know, growing up in a Hispanic family is all about tamales and pan dulce
So
and
good.
tortillas and all of that, right?
So good.
Eventually you have to go, I can't eat that stuff all the time. For other people, there may be other root causes, you know. I have worked with women who say, you know, I don't ever want to date again. But that's the reason they're heavy, right? They don't want men approaching them. Okay?
So that they found a way to, I guess, put that wall up.
Absolutely. And this is not something that people do consciously. So much of this is unconscious, which is why weight is a very complex subject and more of a long-term treatment. So I would ask all of these questions. I would set a goal with Carmine. I would help him understand how to eat. And I would help them understand that what we're trying to do is create a healthy lifestyle where you're happy with yourself. It's not all about diet and exercise. You're creating a new focus of the mind on taking care of yourself and living a life that is healthy, happy, and focused on well-being.
And you're doing 2 things in that sense, too. You're finding out what's blocking, what's the barrier, and giving the tools to go away from that and stay away from that.
That's right.
Huge. It's both. It's not just one thing.
No, it's a number of different things.
And what I see with psychology and sometimes with psychiatry is they focus on getting away from negative but not reinforcing the positive and not giving the lifestyle habit changes to stay away from there.
You got to replace something.
Huge.
You got to take away the bad habit and put a good habit in there. Habit control is all about habit replacement. You know, you can't take away something and not put something in there.
Huge. And again, there's a neurological, chemical, and hormonal change in your body that has to occur where you will feel uncomfortable going from your homeostasis, which is in a state unhealthy, to a better homeostasis.
That's right. And one of the things we strive to do with hypnotherapy is make that discomfort more easily manageable, or try to make it go away totally, which in some cases happens, but not all, right? Same thing with smoking, right? Okay, we want to make this as easy as possible when we're working with a smoking client. We don't want you to have withdrawals or cravings, okay? Will that happen? Maybe, but we're going to give them tools on how to deal with that.
Okay. And with, say, weight loss or smoking or other things too, is there a time frame where they've been smoking or been, in their sense, overweight that makes it harder for them to get away from that bad habit?
Sure, absolutely. For instance, if somebody's been smoking a pack a day for 30 years, that's going to be a little bit more difficult sometimes, typically, than somebody that's only been smoking for 5 years. Not always.
Okay.
But that habit after 30 years is more deeply ingrained. If I'm working with a client who wants to lose weight and they've never been thin, they have no experience of being thin, well, we got some work cut out for us, as opposed to somebody that remembers what it was like to be a thinner person.
And someone like that, for example, how do you get them to visualize and see and feel being a thinner person?
It certainly takes time. Okay, so we ask questions like, what would it be like? What would it feel like, sound like, look like?
You want them to come up with the words.
That's right. Look in the mirror. Imagine you're looking in the mirror and seeing yourself 25, 50 pounds lighter. Imagine getting rid of all the heavy clothes, going out and buying new clothes, right? Imagine people complimenting you, getting the mind more familiar with that compelling outcome. It takes time, repetition, and reinforcement.
And results you've seen, how many people, not relapse, but don't stick to a mindset and habits to change? What's the average, I guess?
Well, it's hard to say an average because when somebody loses weight, I stop tracking them.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But I would say about a little bit more than half the people contact me years later and say, guess what, Ted? I'm doing great. I'm running marathons. And thank you so much for your help,
Yes.
But they're listening to the recordings that we made for them of the hypnosis.
What are the recordings?
Every time we do hypnosis, which is about 15-20 minutes, I make a recording of the hypnosis part of the session.
Oh, okay.
Typically do it on their cell phone. Okay.
Great.
They go home, they listen to it. That's the repetition and reinforcement. See?
That's awesome. So it gets them unconsciously to change as well as consciously.
That's right. That's right.
Wow.
And we want both of those pieces in place there.
So by giving them the homework to do, makes the patient more accountable versus just the session itself.
The patient must be held accountable, okay? And that's part of the coaching process that I bring to hypnotherapy is like, can I get your commitment? You're going to do this, Will I ask you next week, did you do this? Will you say yes? So, and sometimes I'll call them, I'll text them during the week, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Just to let them know I've got their back.
And how long have you done hypnotherapy for? How many years?
How long have I been practicing?
Yes.
15 years.
Awesome.
15
so you have
years.
enough experience. I've been practicing 16 years to realize the different type of people that are out there and how they can respond to hypnotherapy and a lifestyle change and be uncomfortable.
That's right. That's right. And, some people are very, very highly motivated. Other people, not so highly motivated. So every client is different. We've got to meet the client in their world, where they're at, and take them from there.
Huge. And again, not different than chiropractic care.
Exactly.
It's how do you help someone change their habits over time, adjust based on their personality, their motivation at that point. If they're in an anxious or depressed state, helping them get out of that by changing some habits and see what you do to work with them long term. I give my patients exercise every day.
That's right.
I said you have to do your routine. If not, this will not be effective.
I've been getting chiropractic since I was 20 years old regularly, and it has served me well. Every morning I get up and I stretch for 15 or 20 minutes. I stretch my neck, I do bruggers, I do some yoga poses, so yeah. I mean, I can't just count on going to a chiropractor once a month and then I'm going to be okay. I walk every day, so yeah, you have to take responsibility for maintaining that level of health and physical well-being.
And going back to getting someone to change their habits, is physical exercise part of the program too?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
One of the first questions I ask my clients in the very first session is, what do you eat? How much do you sleep? How much exercise do you get?
There you go.
Oh, I'm totally stressed out, they'll tell me. Oh, I'm so tense and stressed out. Well, try taking a walk.
Start slow.
Start slow, yeah. Go out, walk for 5 minutes, breathe some fresh air. This allows your body to vent out tension and stress. Listen to a recording once a day. They're 15 minutes. You know, so, and listen to it while you're walking. Those kind of things. You know, getting them to move their body. I think today in today's society, we're so disconnected. Our minds are so disconnected from our bodies. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I try to create a union. So when something's going on in somebody's body, they're like, "Oh, what's going on here?" Or a lot of times when I work with my clients, I'm like, if you need to address something, you're going to feel it in your body. You're going to feel it as a tension. When somebody says something that you need to respond to, you're going to feel it in your body, and that's going to be a sign, hey, there needs to be a discussion here, right?
You take a step. You almost take a step back and go, okay, I see my body's reaction. Why am I reacting that way? It's causing tension and a stress to my mind. So how do I deal with it right then?
Absolutely. Yes.
In a positive way.
Of course.
Not a hit him with a club over the head or something like that.
Right, or drinking or drugging or anything like that in a positive way.
Why have people become so disconnected to their body?
Because we are a society that spends most of its time sitting down.
Okay.
You know, we're not out there plowing the fields, you know. We're not out there walking to a friend's house or walking to our work, you know. We are sitting in our cars, we go to an office, we sit there, and so we don't feel our bodies so much anymore.
So if we don't move enough, like our ancestors did, which we have the same genes in our bodies now as our ancestors were, at that point our body becomes somewhat stressed and disconnected from our mind.
That's right.
And if we have talk radio on where we're driving to work for an hour, or a news station, or something that kind of upsets us, will that affect our body and mind together, especially if we're not moving?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because here we are, we're driving, and it's easy to go into hypnosis when you're driving.
Yep.
You know, subconscious, right? And now you've got this kind of negativity that you're very suggestible to, right? If you're listening to talk radio where the guy's yelling and screaming and angry, guess what's going to happen to you?
When you get to work, you're like, why am I so stressed?
Right.
Why do I feel this way?
Yeah.
It was a good drive. It only took me 2 hours today.
You know, hey, try listening to music or some audio book of positivity or some audio tape, you know.
Listen to a podcast that's positive.
Listen to a podcast, right.
You know, it's so easy now. I mean, for me, my personal thing, I go to the gym, put on a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to something that's going to help motivate me physically, or not physically, but professionally or personally, to keep my mind ready to go so my day becomes more clear. And I go to work, I go home, and I feel good. For something negative, then I just do this all day.
Sure.
And that proceeds to people around me too. How does hypnotherapy, part of the treatment, being affected their ability to get better, in a sense, by people around them?
Well, that is something we definitely have to manage, because a lot of people come in, a lot of my clients come in, and they're negatively affected by the people around them. So either their relationship, their marriage is not where it needs to be, or what's becoming much, much more common is people are caring for elder parents.
Yes.
And the parents are maybe not as compliant as they would like them to be, or not as
And they're not
nice.
trained. They're not trained professionals.
Right.
They're kids. They're the parents' kids.
Right.
And they still have full-time job in their own kids.
Yes.
They're trying to do this as a part-time, sometimes full-time job.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember working with one guy. He was working with his mother. He was taking care of his mother. She was an alcoholic, right? So she was like Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing. And he was feeling a lot of guilt, like, you know, I don't like my mother. I don't like to spend time with her. I said, who would? That's normal.
But how can they not see that? How do they can't perceive that? Why do they keep to themselves in a negative manner they feel guilty?
Well, because, you know, there's a sense of obligation, that overriding sense of obligation. I should be taking care of my mom. She raised me. I shouldn't hate her, you know. And so what I help people do is like, well, let's get in touch with that. Yeah, you don't like her. You know, you're resentful of her drinking and screaming at you, you know. Okay, yeah, that's there. We're not saying it's good, bad, or indifferent.
You can't control some of that.
Yeah, it's there. How do we change your mind so you're not so affected by it?
So the perception sometimes becomes so, I guess, down on the person to where they can't control that situation. Or how they feel, sorry.
You're right.
Yeah. Okay.
You're absolutely right. That's what happens, and then they get into a rut.
Okay. So by having them perceive what a better situation might be, how to think differently, then is this something where it can change your unconscious mind to react differently in the future and not be affected by that?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's exactly what we do. So, you know, if somebody I don't know tells me something rude, I might be like, well, you're a jerk, but I'll forget it. I mean,
It doesn't affect me.
It doesn't affect me as much as if somebody I know or love tells me something rude.
Yeah.
I might hang on to that a lot longer.
And family's the best. They're the ones that really, really
they
stick
push
to
the
you.
buttons. That's right.
And that's the thing. We've been, like I said, we were all raised since we were pre-infant. So we have these things in our mind that we think are truths, are values. Mm-hmm. How do we adjust that over time with hypnotherapy and also changing someone's lifestyle so they can benefit from that? So staying healthy, physical sense helps their mind stay healthy too. Is that the link?
Yeah, so much of it is awareness.
Okay.
Awareness, right? So we go through our lives very much unconsciously. We have patterns of behavior. We have patterns of thinking. Mm-hmm. We have beliefs, and our beliefs don't show up to us as beliefs. Our beliefs show up to us as truths. This is how it is, right? So the first step is awareness. Like, okay, let's look at what you believe. Let's look at your patterns, and let's identify the ones that simply aren't working for you anymore.
Okay.
And let's come up with some reasonable alternatives. So the first step is awareness. To get to where you want to go, you need to know where you are now.
That's it.
Right? So, when people talk to me, when they're describing what's going on, I'll help them say, well, look at this. Was there a different thing you could have done? Look at this word you use consistently. Like hate. I hate this. I hate that. Look. So see how you're programming your mind for hate. Do you really hate? Or is it just an easy use of that word, right? But if you say the word hate, it's going to affect your mind. Can we use a different word? Right?
Even tone of voice, too.
Tone of voice is a huge part of it.
And I think a lot of people, when they realize, what am I really doing? How am I speaking? Tone of voice, words you're using too, enunciations, even speed of voice too, and their mannerisms when they're talking allows them to go, okay, is that really what I want people to see? Mm-hmm. If not, how do I change that over a period of time? Because you've had this for sometimes years. This has been your normal character. And over time make myself perceived as a better person because I am a better person.
That takes a lot of work because those habits are deeply ingrained. They might be family habits. Yeah. Everybody in the family communicated to each other by screaming at each other, right?
Yes.
And to get somebody to learn how to have a conversation with somebody where they say, look, I'd like to sit down, I'd like to talk to this about you. Not pointing the finger, but can we resolve this? This is a little bit of an issue or a problem. Just calm, rational adult conversation goes a long way rather than saying you. And
a child again.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's where people kind of hook into those childhood memes or tropes or programming, which just reinforces the exact thing that they don't want.
And when you're doing something like that where you are confronting something and wanting to change a person around you that is really a part of your life, is it controlling your own emotional state at the same time?
That's an essential part of it.
Okay.
An essential part of it. Controlling your own emotional state so that you're not triggered into anger or resentment or guilt, and you're able to think clearly about what you want, mm-hmm. how you want to say it, and in the moment responding to how the other person is talking to you. And they may be screaming at you. Mm-hmm. But instead of screaming back, you can say, look, I don't want to have this conversation if you're going to scream at me.
Yeah.
Let's take a break and come back and let's try again. But I don't want to be screamed at.
And a lot of it is when you take control of your own emotions, I think, and then the person may say, well, what's going on? Why is that person different?
Yes. I call it the dance, right?
Okay.
We learn to dance with people in the same way. We always do the same dance, the same steps. But if you start doing a different dance, they're going to have to dance differently as well.
You have to find, how do I adapt to this new person that I don't know right now?
Exactly.
Kind of throws off the scent.
It's a new pattern. Exactly. Right.
What else do you deal with that would benefit people to know with hypnotherapy?
Mainly I deal with people that have anxiety.
Okay.
So social anxiety, driving anxiety about public speaking. I work with a lot of business professionals that have anxiety about going out and networking or public speaking. That's very common, or anxiety about not meeting the sales quota, et cetera, bringing in the business, right? There's a lot of fear, self-confidence, self-esteem are issues that I work with.
So it's the back end is where, how do you build that confidence, self-esteem?
Yeah.
Hey, you can do this.
That's right.
You have a voice, you have good stature, you're physically healthy. Why can't you do this?
That's right.
And with public speaking for one too, because there's a big thing right now about that and becoming more effective public speaker, especially with podcasts, interviews, and using video as a way to promote your message. How do you walk someone through, someone who is anxious about public speaking, and say they're very timid, they have a low volume of sound when they do talk, and they're hard to understand, how do you get them to change that? What's the steps you would do?
The very first thing I do is get them connected to their body.
How's
Feel
that?
your body. Okay. So when you are public speaking, if you're up in your head and thinking about what you're sounding like, your voice is going to sound like this, and there's going to be a constriction in your vocal cords.
Yes.
But if you can bring your attention down here, if you can focus on the grounding yourself,
Got it.
and the breath, then the voice is going to come out more smoothly, more resonantly. Your mind's not going to be all jangled from this kind of fight or flight
Yeah,
tension, right? So the first thing I do is I teach them what to do with their bodies,
Okay.
right? And of course there's other things, self-confidence, listening to themselves, recording themselves, getting used to the sound of their voice so they can learn how to modulate or adjust. So it can be pretty complex.
It's work.
Yeah, it is work.
It's not going to happen overnight.
We have to first create hope that we can change.
Got it. Okay. And how do you create the hope?
We put them in hypnosis and tell them you have lots of hope.
You're good.
You're good.
See you tomorrow.
You know what we do is we teach them to work with their own language. I can do this. Affirmations,
Got it.
Affirmations. Begin to tell yourself every day, I have hope and I have faith that I can change my life and things will get better.
Why does affirmations work? I know why, but they may not know why.
Right. Because our world is created by language.
Yes.
We can't talk about something we don't have a name for.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So something is what it is because that's what we say it is. So language informs our world and language informs us about our world.
Way to communicate.
That's right. And not only how we communicate with others, but how we communicate with ourselves. Okay, so one of the things that I help my clients do is to be conscious of their own language. What are you saying to yourself? How are you describing the world? Some people come to me and say, well, the world's a very scary place. I'm very scared. Well, that's their description of the world. But another description would be equally as valid. The universe takes good care of me, or God and all his angels are protecting me, or whatever your belief system is. So I help people work with their language because the mind will be affected by what you say, because that's how all beliefs are created, through language. You can't have a belief without language.
Yes.
The reason I believed in Santa Claus is because somebody told me there was a fat guy who came through the chimney and flew through the sky with reindeers, and I believed it because somebody told me.
I still believe that. What's wrong with that?
I didn't want to ruin it for you. I'm so sorry.
Well, and to sum it up for my mind, if I tell myself the world's a scary place, how does it affect my subconscious, and how do I react to that? How do I act and form habits to now reinforce my subconscious thoughts that I'm at the world's a scary place?
Okay, so you're asking me if you continue to tell yourself that the world's a scary place. Okay.
Yes.
So if that becomes a belief, with
What
enough
I see in my
repetition,
physical body, what would I see in my actions,
protect.
in my unconscious?
First thing you'd see in your body is a protection. The world's a scary place. I may be attacked. I'm going to protect myself. Guarded physiology, right? When I go outside, I'm going to be looking around. I'm not going to be enjoying the beautiful sun or trees or clouds. I'm going to be like, is somebody going to jump me any minute now?
The trust factor is zero.
Now the fight or flight response is getting triggered because there's danger out there, right? Now adrenaline's pumping and now maybe you're getting adrenal burnout, right? Now, oh man, I need a candy bar, I need a drink, right? And it's just...
So it feeds a bad habit. You mentioned adrenaline too, and serotonin is another hormone too.
Yeah.
Those hormones sometimes will adjust your body to a lower homeostatic state, say a lower homeostatic anxious state or fearful state. Now you want to feed that state.
Right.
With, say, more bad thoughts, people around you, how you eat, how you act, or lack of motion.
Exactly. And people may not even realize, most of the time they don't realize this is going on,
Exactly.
that they're reinforcing the very thing that they don't want. I think people instinctively have the idea that, like, working out makes me feel better, right? They may not understand that they're connecting with the body and venting out tension and stress. But that's not enough. There has to be the whole dietary thing. There has to be sleep and right thinking.
Huge. And I know people that work out a lot to try to compensate for their stress levels.
Yeah.
But they, at some point, they just burn themselves out too.
Right.
They'll cause injuries.
Yes,
They'll
because
overdo.
they're overdoing it, right.
They won't have repair time or sleep time. So your body internally, and the foods too, to repair the muscles they're working out so hard.
That's right. They don't have those other pieces in place.
Huge. Huge. How would hypnotherapy work with someone who's anxious about driving?
Okay, that's a really good question. I just did a presentation to the American Hypnosis Association about that.
Okay.
There's two reasons people develop fear of driving, okay?
Okay.
One is that they have a close call or an accident.
An event.
Okay. That creates what we call a fear of driving. But many people just, one day I was driving and I had a panic attack. For no reason or no apparent reason. That's called a phobia. Because there's no originating incident.
Okay.
Typically when that happens, it's caused by low blood sugar.
So their body has reacted to something else. Now they correlate with it into a phobia, a fear, and that point now associate the fear phobia in their mind with what they were doing at that moment.
Exactly. I couldn't have put it any better myself.
Wow.
So think about it. Somebody gets up, they're late, they get a big old thing of coffee, they're gulping down their coffee, maybe they get a donut, right? They're on the freeway, they're running late for work, there's already a high level of stress, maybe in other areas of life as well.
Their health isn't in good health of eating donuts every day.
And they're not getting enough sleep. Here's their blood sugar is very high right now, and the body's like, nope, we gotta bring that blood sugar down. There's a corresponding drop in blood sugar. Now the fight or flight gets triggered. They have a panic attack or some sensation in their body that is unfamiliar or unpleasant, and now they associate that feeling with driving. Some people are scared enough, well, they'll check themselves into the ER. Am I having a heart attack? That's very scary, right? Yeah. It could happen while you're driving. Could happen while you're on an airplane. Could happen when you're in an elevator. Could happen driving over a bridge. Okay? And all of a sudden now, the subconscious mind can learn very quickly, and its job is to protect us. So now, that is scary for me.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. And you have to correlate somehow what was the reason. Why? Even your doctor will ask you too, well, have you had this before? Right. Is this something going on? It might be psychological, not physical, if they can't find their own reason.
It could very well be psychological, okay? And there's so many different ways that this can happen. You know, somebody was forced to go on a roller coaster. Anytime, you know, they're on a bank of a freeway, that fear may kick in. Now they're afraid of freeways, you know, especially if conditions aren't right, like you said, not good sleep, not good eating, too much coffee, that kind of thing, right? Yeah. But these things can happen very quickly.
And with what you do as a hypnotherapist, is it affected when someone is taking medications?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Now, you know, if somebody is smoking pot regularly, that's good for me to know because marijuana is a sleep-inducing drug.
Yes.
Right? They're probably walking around in hypnosis a lot, right?
Yeah.
Or if they're drinking a lot. On the other hand, if they're taking uppers, stimulants, right? It might be a little bit more difficult to put them into hypnosis. It can be done, but if I know what's going on there...
You can adjust how it's done.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Do you help people get off of medications?
I do. I help people get off of medications, cigarettes, drinking, marijuana, all of those bad habits.
Wow.
I help people with.
Well, and I think a lot of it is people don't understand with hypnotherapy, I didn't, how effective that is as a natural therapy to work with your own body so you change your body, your homeostatic state, homeostasis, to a better comfort level.
That's right. That's right. And one of the reasons why we create such a state of relaxation in hypnosis is to allow the body to be relaxed and to associate hypnosis with that calm, relaxed state. I mean, you can be in hypnosis and not relaxed, but the more we can create that pleasant state, the more people want to come back, and the more they have that memory of like, oh, I know how to be relaxed, okay? So when you're in hypnosis, you're awake. That's important. You're aware, you're fully in control, and I don't have any ability to make somebody do or say something they don't want to do or say. That's TV and movies, and you know what people are thinking.
That's the stereotype.
Right. People are thinking thoughts when they're in hypnosis, and they remember most of what I say, and it's just a very pleasant, relaxing, and comfortable state.
And when you're in a relaxed state, like anything with hypnotherapy or not, then you can change things, and you have the attitude, hey, I'm in control of this.
Right.
Or I have this better idea, I can do something else, or I can deal with this situation a better way.
Because being relaxed and being calm and at ease is a resourceful state.
Huge. And is there a way to tap in the unconscious mind more when you're more relaxed?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
It's huge.
It's easier to tap into instinct, right? Or gut feelings when your mind is relaxed, you know. It just makes a lot of sense. And people that are at the peak of whatever they do it in a relaxed manner.
It depends on, and everyone's different. I work out to relax.
Mm-hmm.
I should probably sleep more to relax.
Okay.
But a lot of it is can be aware of where our body is, and by doing hypnotherapy and teaching them those skills, I think allows them to go, hey, I'm slipping here.
Right.
I can't go here because if I go here, I'm going to go here, here, here.
Yes.
You're helping them see that rabbit hole they can avoid if it's their habit trait they came in with initially.
Absolutely. And the way I describe it is like,
Yes.
Your mind's in this groove, right? And you've gone down this path so many times that, there's a well-worn path and it's a groove and it's easy to go down that path. But what you're telling me is you want to go down a different path, but that path is overgrown. There's lots of weeds.
Yeah.
We the going may be slow
Yeah.
at first. We may need to hack some stuff out of the way, right? And you may want to go back. You may very well go back to this old path. But let's keep putting you on this new path. Let's keep making that groove deeper and deeper and deeper. So that's the new groove. That's the new homeostasis. And this one gets overgrown, unfamiliar, and you don't want to go there anymore.
And people probably ask you too, well, if I see you for this, how long does it take it to get away from that groove that I'm so used to, that routine, to a better situation? How long do I have to be uncomfortable to make that my unconscious decision?
And I always ask them, if you wanted to learn to play guitar,
Mm-hmm.
how fast do you want that to happen?
Yeah.
If you wanted to get in good shape, how fast do you want that to happen? It's up to you.
How much work do you want to put in?
How much work do you want to put in?
do you want to get this thing done?
That's right. Are you going to listen to the recordings every day? Are you going to do the affirmations
Mm-hmm.
every day? Are you going to do the homework that I give you? If you do it, things are going to happen more quickly. Can you come every week? Are you willing to commit to 4 or 6 or 8 sessions?
Yeah.
If you are, you will get results more quickly than somebody's like, oh, I just want to try it and I'll be back in a month. And no, I didn't listen.
It will not be effective. Sorry.
It won't be as effective. Yeah.
It's just something to where, unless you're going to do the effort to be uncomfortable, I think,
Yeah.
and learn and do new habits, realize what I'm feeling is not really, is my perception, not my reality, if there's a way to say that.
Yeah.
At that point, getting into a better state will take some work.
It will. It will take some work, and everybody's is up to doing that work.
Well, and that's the thing is, instead of me going on YouTube and going, how do I change my habits, either speaking it or typing it in, I'd rather see someone like yourself, Ted, to where just tell me what to do.
Yeah, it's easier.
I'll show up every week. You give me the homework. I'll do it every day. At that point, I know it's going to work for me.
Right. So if I wanted to pull my own tooth, I could.
Yeah, exactly.
Why would I want to?
Painful.
Right?
You might pull the wrong tooth.
I'll go to a professional to get that done.
Yes.
Hey, there's plenty of people that are doing their own personal self-development and self-improvement. Having a coach or a hypnotherapist just makes it a little bit easier.
And it gives you the quote-unquote guarantee I'm doing the right things to get there.
Yes.
I'm not going to make my life even worse by going down the wrong route.
Right. And what I tell people is you've never seen your own face. You've never seen your own face. You've seen a reflection. Maybe you've seen a photo. But the fact that you've never seen your own face is a metaphor for the fact that there are things about you that you cannot see. And that's where a professional like myself comes into play. I have an objectivity that my clients don't have. I can see things that they can't see. And that's incredibly helpful.
And your 15 years of experience, too, you've seen everything on the block.
Yes.
100+ times.
Most of the things on the block. Yeah.
And you still teach, too?
I teach at the Hypnosis Motivation Institute. Yeah, I'm a
Okay.
senior instructor there. And I recently did, like I said, a talk about driving anxiety. That's available on YouTube. Just type in
Great.
Ted Moreno driving anxiety. You'll watch my presentation.
Fantastic. Why do you think teaching helps you become a better hypnotherapist? That's why I do podcasts for myself, to make myself a better chiropractor.
Because when I started to teach, I was like, oh my God, I realize I don't understand that as well as I need to. There's a little piece of that that's not clear to me, and how am I going to teach that, So by teaching people, that instills and solidifies the information in my own mind much, much better.
So it makes your unconscious mind not hypnotizing yourself. Okay, this is what I really do believe. This is how this really does work.
Yeah.
And how do I make my clients a better hypnotherapist for my clients to see and obviously improve what they want to improve.
Yes.
Huge.
Right.
How long have you been teaching for?
3.5 years.
Fantastic. It's a blast.
Yeah, I love
Good
it.
for you. Good for you. Anything else to add for your first show?
Be sure to check out my podcast,
All
Ted
of
in Your
it.
Head. Okay. And lately I've been working more and more with business professionals.
Why?
Entrepreneurs, business owners, because I find that these are people that have much more at stake. They're willing to invest in themselves, and a lot of business owners, like I can tell, by the way you speak, that you know what personal development is all about, right?
Jim Rome, yes.
You've read some books, you've listened to podcasts, right? So we're not starting from ground zero, and those people are very, very fun to work with. We get a lot of momentum and a lot of results very quickly because they already know the value of personal self-development. So that's where the coaching piece comes in, and I have some great programs to help people attract more financial abundance, have better career success, and have better ability to create abundance, happiness, and health.
When I always go back to ROI, if I'm in a business sense or personal sense too, if I invest, say, $1,000, but I can get $10,000 out of it, why wouldn't I do it?
Exactly.
Why wouldn't I spend the time, effort, short-term, long-term to see that benefit not only financially, if that's the issue, but also my own physical health?
Yeah.
My people around me, my health too. So business people see that more often. The problem is someone who has done only schooling, they have no idea what they're getting into. So knowing the business side of how to regain that ROI, in my sense, allows me, I'll give you a check for $100,000. If you give me a check for $200 in a couple of months or 3 or 4 months,
right.
And long term I can maintain that habit change and my mental state and being aware of how my body's doing. So long term I can maintain that even when I stop seeing Mr. Ted.
Absolutely. May I say one more thing about that?
Of course.
I think it was in September I went to a 3-day kind of business academy down in San Diego, right?
Okay.
And it was pretty intense. There was a lot of good information. It was put on by my coach, Jim Palmer.
Okay.
But when I came out of there, like the phone started ringing and ringing and ringing and ringing and ringing and ringing, right? Maybe I was just showing up differently on my podcast. Maybe I was showing up differently to my clients. But all of a sudden I had something that was very attractive to people and business just boomed.
That's awesome.
Right? And so some of these things are very subtle, right? Like if you go to a job interview and you're happy and you're healthy and you're ready to rock and roll, that's going to show up. But if you go to a business interview, a job interview, and you're like, oh, I don't think I'm going to get this job and I'm so broke, your interviewer
is anxious, depressed, you're like, okay.
That's going to come through as well.
Wow.
Right?
Well,
yeah.
And I think a lot of it is when you have to tell us when it was like that program too, why wouldn't you want to go back?
Exactly.
Why would you not want to go again? Okay, what else can you get out of this time?
Exactly.
I already have the ROI. I'm actually in the positive for once. Now I can gain more from that and even pay it forward too.
Right.
With your teaching, that's what I see it. Okay, how do I reinforce what I'm doing, and that way make my beliefs exude through my podcast, through my interviews, through my teaching, everything you're doing.
Tony Robbins calls it I can. Improvement, constant, and never ending.
Doesn't stop. And when you self-educate all the time and reinforce those habits, I think a lot of these people become better people over time. That becomes permanent versus their other habits that were not helpful for.
I would totally agree. Yes.
Anything else to add for your first show?
No, other than the fact that you can find me at www.tedmoreno.com.
Good.
You can reach out to me on all the usual social media outlets, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and subscribe to my blog too at tedmoreno.com.
And I'm going to put all the information on the show notes on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Instabook, all the LinkedIns and everything else we have out there, right?
I certainly appreciate that.
All right, thank you, Ted.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much.
I learned a lot more than anything else. That's my biggest thing. Hope this talk today helped you understand hypnotherapy is a science because our brain absorbs information from the environment, from our overall life, and causes sometimes subconscious phobias that we have to deal with. And dealing with Ted Moreno allows you to get that to the surface, allows you to resolve those phobias and stressful events, get back to normal, healthy life. And then like Ted talks about too, is you maintain that by forming habits, listening to your sessions, so at that point it becomes set in your brain how to change your habits, your routine to stay healthy physically and psychologically. All right, so again, go to the show notes, go to the highlights with Mr. Ted, go to his show, also Ted in Your Head, and his page to understand how to keep yourself healthy. He does stuff daily, at least weekly, on his website, his Facebook, Instabook, and all the other ones too. Again, our show notes has the Facebook page of the Cricket Spine Show. Go to there, leave comments, and your concerns. Also to go to the full video of this, to watch the video instead of listening to the podcast and other podcasts too. A link is there too. All right, so have a great week, and we'll see you next week.